future. And tonight we're going to talk about sort of the history and organization of the association, past, present, and future. Go ahead, next slide. So here's just the basic agenda for the evening. And next slide. Since everybody knows each other, I don't think we need any formal introductions, but anybody want to share anything going on around the herd with your goats?
I will. I'm fixing to breed Cinnamon, my 3-year-old doe, because I have it on good authority there may be a transport next May, and I want to have the possibility of having a kid that's ready to wean. So that's fixing to happen.
There might be. I heard something about that.
I did too, but you never know. But
cool. Janet, any news?
Well, I have not heard about the transport, and now I'm intrigued. And then I was going to wait for my breeding. Should I change my thought process?
We're hoping to do transport the end of May, beginning of June. Obviously, we're going through the Midwest since Christy has already sort of bribed us and, gone around my back to my husband. No. And the other Oklahoma breeder has a cabin that they're like, we will be finished. You must come stay. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so we will be coming around. So yes, either I talk about it in the newsletter, and so if you have breeding that you want to arrange, so you have kids for sale, I would recommend setting up reservation lists. Or if there's goats you're interested in, start, looking around, talking to breeders, and we'll get it done.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other news, Aaron?
No, I'm good. I think you guys have all been caught up on all of our fun, and we're just winding down from the fair time, and my kids go to show their llamas at the state fair next week, so a little bit more time taken there.
Yay! Do I get a link to the live show since you mistook me with their Aunt Sarah?
I will make sure that I get you the link.
Last year, Aaron sent me a link, and so I watched the live show. And then afterwards, Jenny was like, no, I meant their Aunt Sarah. I was like, I enjoyed it. I thought it was really cool.
Oh, funny.
I was going to say, news with our herd. We've started breeding this season, and we have a transport coming up in September, where I think we're going to be heading to Wisconsin. So we'll be in Minnesota, or at least to Wisconsin, and Aaron's going to come over to see Aaron and myself. And I'm picking, Aaron Link is downsizing, and I'm picking up goats from her. So I'm very excited. So that's our news. All right. Next slide, please, Aaron. So, and just some quick SCIGBA news in case you haven't read the newsletter yet. We have the first SCIGBA sanctioned goat show. Currently happening is the virtual show, and in the newsletter, and it will be posted tomorrow, is a link to the show catalog, and you can find all the information on the virtual show. And we have an in-person showmanship show coming up on October 12th at Go-to-Palooza in Charlottesville. So really excited about it. We've Go-to-Palooza, which is our annual social, coming up October 12th. And in person in Charlottesville, but we also live stream so people can log in and see what's going on, and we'll be live streaming the show. Felicity's Miracles, which is the genetics project for the New Hampshire line, has been fully funded. That's going through. And we've been posting all over the group about the Youth Services Committee is working on judging criteria for creating, for the SCIs within a heritage goat category. So really interesting. I encourage everybody to watch us. If you can watch the video and read through the document, it's a lot of really great food for thought, not just for judging, but also in evaluating your own goats and looking at your own goats. So we love your thoughts and inputs and questions if you have any. So next slide. All right. So the history of sort of organizations within the San Clemente Island goat community. When the goats first started coming off the island in the 80s, there was a SCI Goat Club. And this was before email and before the internet or widespread use of either. And so they did everything. They never were incorporated, but they're just a group of people. And they did everything via snail mail. They had a club newsletter. And they were the first group to start tracking our goats and keeping data. And instead of keeping pedigrees, what they did is simply tracked movements. So they knew which herds were sort of founders, and they then tracked, so this person sold to this person and this person sold to this person. And so even though we didn't have formal pedigrees, we do have records of who owned these goats going back to the island. And the goat club lasted for about 10 years, and then it fizzled out. And so then from the mid-90s until about the mid-2000s, a few different individuals tried to keep records, and either one, they got out of SCIs, and so their work they sort of fell by the wayside, or they didn't have a support system. It was just them, and they sort of gave up. And then in 2004, Leslie Edmondson started her own website called the San Clemente Island Goat Association. And it really wasn't an association because it was just Leslie. She was a one-woman show, and she started tracking all the history and gathering all the information. But again, it was a one-woman show, and the only time people really networked is at her annual October fundraiser or October social. And we've been breeding since 2008, and that was how we met other breeders, was by going in October to Leslie's, who lived 20 minutes up the road. Leslie didn't like the internet. She liked her website, but she didn't like to email people. She didn't like social media when it came around. And so she essentially did everything by phone calls and the website. And in 2013, I started the Facebook group, and I talked to Leslie. She had no interest because I saw what it was doing for other heritage breeds, and I really thought we needed a community and we needed to start to gather people. And from the Facebook group started to grow, and we started to get new breeders, and people started to learn about San Clemente's. And then Leslie passed in 2017, and sort of things fell apart as far as the background network. And so that's when Aaron, Laurel, and the Sparks in Maine and I decided that it was time for a formal association. So in 2018, we started writing bylaws, and we incorporated in 2019. And we're incorporated in Wisconsin. Now we're incorporated here in Virginia. And we have 501c3 status through the IRS, and that became formalized in towards the end of 2021. So go ahead, Erin, and next slide. So a basic organization, the SCIGBA today is a registered Virginia non-stock corporation with officers. We file an annual report with the state of Virginia. We are registered with, I put IRA. No, we're not registered with the Irish Republican Army. We're registered with the IRS as a 501c3, and we also file annual annual forms with them. We have set bylaws, which lay out our board of directors. We have committees and annual elections, and protocols for a variety of this type of how the organization is run. Next, Erin. And I guess I thought it was important to sort of talk about why we went this direction. we really saw, especially before the Facebook group took off, that the population for San Clemente's and the community were sort of stagnant. We saw a lot of turnover. People were really excited about San Clemente's, and then they felt isolated, or they didn't know how to handle stuff. They didn't know people, and they would then get out of San Clemente's very quickly. And so we thought an association would provide not only a unified voice on behalf of the breed, but it would formalize support in education. And it would give stewards a stake and a voice in the future of the breed. And last, we wanted a way for there to be transparency and transparency and accountability, so people didn't feel like they were being their voice not heard or their ideas weren't, valid. And I hope that's what we're providing. So I'm going to take a pause real quick, and I see, is this Ashley that joined us?
Yes, hi.
Hey, Ashley, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. Okay. I have a toddler next to me, so you'll probably hear her a lot. But
That's awesome. We're used to that.
Okay, cool. I hopped on and immediately muted because she's loud. But hi, I'm Ashley. I'm in Texas. I don't have any San Clemente. I actually have a herd of Nubians, but somebody had mentioned this breed to me a couple of weeks ago, and I went down a rabbit hole, and now I'm interested in potentially bringing them on and trying to help preserve this interesting goat.
That is awesome. Where in Texas are you?
We are northwest of Weatherford, so we're in Jack County, kind of out in the sticks.
Not an area of Texas I'm familiar with. My husband's from the Houston metro area, so.
Okay, so we're northwest of Houston. We're like 4.5, probably 4 or 5 hours northwest of Houston. Up more towards Central Texas, up further than Central Texas.
Very cool. I was going to say, Jana, since you're the closest, do you want to introduce yourself?
Ashley and I have been talking via text and phone, so I think we're good there.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
No, well, good. Okay, we'll continue then. Erin, do you want to give me the next slide? So sort of the future of San Clemente's. These are just some of the things. Obviously, we want to increase our membership. We are at, I believe it's now 45 members. Once the newest round of paperwork comes in, the goal for the year is 50, so we have 5 more to go. Yay! We really need breeders to start observing their goats. We're finding out, especially working on the judging criterion, that some of us, there's things people just aren't paying attention to, and it's not because they're bad, it's just something we haven't asked them to do before. So the more data we have, it's really important that we can create black and white information for our marketing. We need people to start sharing more about their goats and their herds to increase the word, and we need volunteers desperately. We are 100% volunteer run, and I literally have 15 pages of ideas and to-do lists to do. So we always need a volunteer. The next big project on our horizon is accreditation through the Livestock Conservancy. They are hoping to open it up later this year, and basically it is a checklist that each breed association proves that they've met the requirements, and it's sort of a guideline for what makes a good breed association, and it will give us, I think, more legitimacy as we move forward, because people will be like, oh, well, everybody knows the Livestock Conservancy within the heritage breed community, and to get accreditation from them, I think, is a big deal. And especially when we can produce the list of like, okay, we have this and you can see it here. We have this, you can see it here. We've done this. And again, it goes towards that transparency and accountability. Let's see, next, Erin. Did it? One other thing I wanted to say, sorry, before I open it for comments and questions, is the other thing I really want us to start looking at as we move forward is we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and I think there's weight in that. And so I think we need to start leveraging that power and creating donors that are not breeders, and really building up a donor base so that we can start to fund projects like creating a genetic breed profile, and building different resources for breeders, education programs, and different things like that. Next year is the 150th anniversary of our breed, and so that's one of the things I'd like us to start doing next year. And in fact, I'm really excited. We're signed up with what's called PayPal Giving. It is their charity branch, and they have a listing, and people can find you on there and give through PayPal Giving. And we actually have our first monthly donor. Every month we get, he's signed up every month, and he gives only I think it's $10 a month, but heck, $10 a month, that's $120 a year. And from what I can tell, he's a musician in San Francisco. So we're not exactly talking a farmer or another breeder. So I think that's really cool that, we're starting to reach people that, are potentially disconnected from the farm. And I'm really excited about that. So do people have questions, comments?
I do.
Go ahead.
On that livestock conservancy list, is that something you can share with us? Because I'm really curious. I mean, you don't have to now, but can you email that, or do you have it yet?
I don't have it yet.
Okay.
They opened it up, let me think, I think it was 2 years ago, and they printed everything. And at the time, we were only qualified for the bronze, because it's going to be bronze, silver, or I'll take that back. At the time, it was bronze, silver, gold, and you had to be incorporated for 3 years, and we had just met our 3-year. And for the silver is 5 years. And so next year, if we would hit, and we could then apply for silver. But they then pulled it, and I don't know why. All I got from these Conservancy was they found some glitch or issue they needed to address. So they're hoping to relaunch it with whatever the requirements will be at the end of this year. So I don't have the list yet. The last time I saw the bronze, it was, oh my God, it was pretty simple. It was the bylaws. We had to have bylaws. We had to have a checking account. We needed to address, making sure we were filing with the state governments and the federal government. And then the last thing we needed to address, and I want to address this year, is we needed to create sort of a standing operating procedure manual. And we have on how to deal and do with certain things. And we do have that, but not, I'll take it back. We have protocols, but they're not all pulled together under one umbrella yet. So we do need to do that this year. The second they republish what the standards are going to be, we will definitely be posting them to everybody. And I will say, as part of that, the Livestock Conservancy had a 1.5-year long series of webinars addressing different issues. One of them is the registry. And we have access to all of them. We attended those, and we have access to all of them, and they are the resources and the recorded webinars are free for our members. So if somebody wants to go back and look at any of them or all of them, let me know, and I will send you the resource sheet to go through. They were very interesting. It was stuff like internal communications, external communications, the registry, bylaws, all different sorts of things. So very interesting stuff. But all dealing with administration and management, not necessarily, unless you just love that type of stuff. It's not necessarily something a regular breeder needs to watch. Unless, again, they're welcome to. We're always, would love for people to watch stuff and let us know their thoughts or what they think we're missing or what we need to add. So
And then the other thing I wanted to ask, when you mentioned about that PayPal charitable stuff, I had told you before that Amazon had a way that people could donate. Like every time they shopped, it would donate to their charity of choice. It was called Amazon Smile. Well, they've done away with that, so I actually lied. So
I know. I looked it up, and yeah, they had.
Sorry.
No, don't. I will say that there's a small group of us working on putting together a blog. Like I think the goal is to be weekly, if not bi-weekly. Bi-weekly, be every other week, 2 times a week. And we do need people who want to write blogs or have ideas for blogs, so please let us know. And Erin's one of them working on it. And the one thing we're looking at is affiliation status. And affiliation status is sort of when you put a link or you advertise products. In this case, we were thinking we'd talk about different products like, breeders use or we use as breeders or we find helpful. And for example, with Amazon, you would simply put the link in there, and if anytime anybody clicks the link, you get, a certain percentage. And it's my understanding, but I need to reread this because none of us have actually done this in the group. We're just sort of familiar with the concept, and that's what we're researching. If you click a link and you go, you don't even necessarily have to buy like, let's say we're looking at vet scales. Well, you go. And if you follow the link to the vet scale and you don't buy the vet scale, but in the same time while you're on Amazon, you decide to buy, shoes or clothes or sunglasses or whatever, we get a percentage of that too. So we're sort of looking at something like that as sort of a passive fundraising tool. So any other questions
Yeah, I had 2 things. This is Ashley. I had 2 things. So when you were talking about the breed standards, so I'm brand new to this, but I know with my experience with my dairy herd, there are certain characteristics that are more desirable, and they breed for that and try to breed out the undesirable traits like parrot mouth, and with dairy breeds like extra teats and things like that. Do you happen to know what they're looking for or what we're looking for or whoever's looking for whenever it comes to breed standards? Or is that what y'all were just talking about with the conservation thing?
Well, first, I will say San Clemente's don't have a breed standard. We use a breed description. So are you familiar with breed descriptions?
No.
Okay. So a breed description, they tend to be very common for like landrace breeds. And a standard's very black and white, but a description is sort of gray. Instead of saying you must have this, it tends to list a range. So for example, our goats, hold on as I pull it up in the background because I don't want to misspeak and put out the wrong information. So for example, our goats can be anywhere from like 50 pounds to 130. So we can have goats that are pretty small, and then, some goats that are more along the miniature size. If you're like familiar with like a miniature Nubian or
like a Nigerian horse.
Exactly.
Sounds like in their range.
Exactly. Anywhere from standard Nigerian to slightly larger.
Okay.
And the reason we do that is because SCIs they're non-standardized breed, but they're also, I like to call them quasi landrace. And the reason I say that is because when they first came off the island, they went to all these various places around the country in Canada, and these people basically just kept their goats initially, and they just had them, and they weren't following, the way their goats came to look is just however, with one, what genetics they got, and 2, with whatever they liked. So for example, we have a breeder that likes the standardized SCI pattern, which is the black cape and the lines down their legs, and then a shade of brown. And if any other type of coloration shows up on their goat, they remove them from their breeding population because in their mind, that's just not a full SCI. But we now know from looking at historical photos that SCIs even though, yes, the San Clemente pattern is prevalent, and if you are in the traditional dairy world, you probably know the pattern is buckskin, but it's not. It's San Clemente. The gene is named San Clemente. Everybody else just calls it wrong. But we have what's called a partial San Clemente, which is the lack of the cape, but it tends to have a line down their back and just stripes down their legs. And then we also have a self color, where that's a self black is the one we see now. There was a self white. I don't know of any self whites still existing. That doesn't mean that those genetics may not pop up again. Hopefully they will. And we also have San Clementes that have white on them, as far as like stars and blazes and spots and frosting on like noses and ears. So yeah, it's just, they're different. What we really encourage people to look at first is the genetics and making sure that we're keeping our genetic diversity alive. And we ask them to look at any major physical deformities. So for example, if there's something that's really going to hinder a goat from living a quality life, we would encourage you to, call them, whether that in whatever form of calling is appropriate for you. But otherwise we breed. And that's why the judging criterion is so interesting, because we breed commercial American Dairy Goat registered La Manchas also. And so, like you guys, Christy raises Alpines. So we all know what those standards are, wide hips, straight legs, wide up, high and wide, 2 teats. Yeah, that's just not San Clemente. You will find in these criteria that our San Clemente should have, and most of them are preferred is what's called a sickle leg. A lot of people confuse them with cow hawking. That trait is found in unstandardized goats. It's what helps with the ability to climb and move over rough terrain, like San Clemente Island. If you look at mountain goats, if you look at ibexes, they all have sort of this sickle leg. Some of the other things we're looking at is, and supernumerary teats are common in San Clemente, so that's not an issue here. But we do look more for evenness of the udder. You don't want what's considered a high attachment for us. We don't want udders that are dragging on the ground that are going to get infected. I'm trying to think what other things we were talking about. So we've been talking about, I'm trying to think. Erin, can you go forward one slide for me? I think that's, well, actually, hold on. Let me see which slide I want. Okay, no, I don't want that one. If I can find,
sorry. And
no,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, the other thing I was going to say is I know I'm new here, but I am a writer. So if you guys need help, like formatting anything or somebody to co-write, if you have information that you need put in written format, I can help with that.
Yes. Oh, you just regretted it. Thank you. No. Awesome.
Okay, I just wanted to toss that out there.
No, Erin, can you go back to the what's happening around the herd slide for me? I think it's one more. Okay. So the goat on the far left. Ashley's on the phone. She's not on it. Oh, duh. So that's
I couldn't find a way to this is the only way I found to get on was on a phone number. So, but if you have any, I was actually going to ask if you have any graphics that you want to email to me or send me in Messenger. That would be great. That way I could print them and have them. I don't know if that's a thing, but
no problem. Okay. Well, when you want to look at any side photo of a San Clemente, and one of the first things you'll notice is their rump. Christy, what's wrong? As an alpine breeder, what's wrong with the rump of this? And I'm circling it like you're seeing my screen. This is Erin's.
Yeah.
What's wrong with the guy on the far left?
Yeah, their rumps are so steep. The first time I saw San Clementes, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to get used to that, because in the alpine world, that is a huge no-no.
Yeah, I mean, he's what, almost a 45-degree angle down,
Yeah.
probably. So coming from it, yeah, some of these traits that you're going to see in San Clemente's, if, coming from Nubians, you're going to be like, sorry, I mean, you're going to sort of gasp at first. You're going to be like, oh my God, I need to get rid of that. Well, we're discovering that it appears that this steep rump is what allows our goats to kid really quick and fast. And think about it. You're sitting on an island. San Clemente didn't have predators, but let's say these guys are endemic to Yosemite or Yellowstone. I mean, let's see. You have grizzlies there. You have wolves. I mean, you want to kid quickly. You want to get them cleaned quickly, because the last thing you want is a bear or a wolf on top of you while you're kidding, because then that's just a goodbye to everybody. So yeah, there's traits like this. And so the judging criterion and the reference that goes with it is really sort of describing these traits, because judges, if they come from a goat world, are going to be like, oh, these are horrible goats. Well, they're not. They're really great for what they are and for what we want. And we're trying to preserve the traits from the island within, to keep them and those traits going. So yeah, you'll enjoy, I think. I really enjoyed the discussion. Christy, I think, rewatched it and she's enjoyed. I mean, again, coming from the dairy world, you're gonna be surprised. Something else we talked about, and the goat here on the right is the perfect example. I wish his head was facing forward. He'd be a better example. But the top line, our top lines are relatively straight, but in the front, we tend to have this little concave hump thing going on, which you don't see in dairy goats. And we're going to research, but we looked at pictures of like mountain goats and ibexes, and they have this hump, but they're much larger than ours. And so our guess is that they must have it must be attached to a larger muscle mass that they need for, again, climbing rough terrain and sort of pulling their, front up and their back up. So that's something we're researching to see, and will be added sort of descriptions and reasoning why as part of the reference guide. But I'm sorry, I got off on a tangent. Did that help at all, Ashley?
Yes, it did. That helps. If you have, like I said, if you have visuals, that's always better for me to understand. I can envision it, but I'd love to look and see like what we're looking for in growing this breed forward.
Understandable, and definitely.
Ashley, I was just gonna. I typed in chat before I realized you were on a phone, but we messed up on the Facebook page. Our link is normally on there to join the video call, and it's not there this week. We apologize. But normally you can join and see the video and have camera and everything if you want to. And Sarah's going to fix that for the next meeting. And then I was going to point out this, what she's talking about with the judging criteria. I don't know if you saw that post on the Facebook page or not, but they're going through this sort of creating a standard, and they're going through all of the things you're asking about. And it was 2 hours. It's a long video. But for your question, it answers all of your questions. It's well worth watching.
Thank you so much. I'll go back and I'll look for that. That's my kind of content right there.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Thank you.
I think input from dairy breeders is really important, because, yes, we're not looking to standardize this goat. We really want to honor the island goat, the historical goat, but we want to make sure we're using terminology that goat breeder, especially dairy, because I think a lot of people are sort of transitioning towards dairy with their herds, that dairy goat breeders are going to understand. Look at stuff and be like, oh, wait, I think, like, initially the udders, I can't remember what the terms they use, but they used a term like, no, the term you're looking for is like high, you want to hide and wide, and they're like, oh, okay, I think it was tight was what
Tight
they
and
were.
loose. Yeah.
Tight and loose. Yeah. I'm like, yeah. Most goat people, somebody in the dairy world is going to be like, what is tight and loose? Like, you mean in milk, not in milk? I mean, yeah. So those types of insights and thoughts are really important. Christy, I know, went through it, was like, oh, you guys forgot to, describe this. I was like, oh, yeah. And so please look through it. And this is the type of group we like to collaborate. We like to throw things at the wall and see what sticks. And we also do really well building on each other. It doesn't matter. Just throw it out. And, somebody will be like, oh, I see what you mean. And, we build upon it. And I think this works really well. And I love that about our group. So any other questions, comments?
Sarah, I was going to ask you, I didn't look ahead in the presentation, but are you also going to talk about what's coming up in the near future?
The near future of what?
With the group.
Oh.
What we're, because I know that some people well, we have 36 members, and so I know that there's going to be people, well, what do I get for being a member? And so I'm sure we're going to bring up what's upcoming as far as what improvements and what benefits there are to being a member.
Definitely. They're testing our data now. It went this week, last week.
Last week.
Our registry herd book will be online, fingers crossed, September, October. And that means people will be able to look for goats. You can say, oh, well, who's registered to Christy? And you can put Christy's name in, or you can put her herd name in, East Ridgewood.
Mm-hmm.
And it will pull up all her goats. You can see the goat's pedigree, their registration number. I think we're going to add in the near future the DNA testing number. And then there's the ability in the pedigree. Each goat is a link, so you can tap on any goat in the pedigree to get their information. There is a link where you can press the button. I think off the top of my head it's P. I could be wrong. And it pulls up all their progeny.
You're cutting out again, Sarah.
It's going to be really great. It's coming with the big thing will be the coefficient of inbreeding will be listed for every goat, and we will also have a trial breeding calculator. Oh no. How's that?
Better.
Let's see.
We got you now, I think.
Okay. Good. We'll be having a trial. You'll be able to run trial matings, or trial breedings to get coefficients of inbreeding. So, for example, Jana breeds pilgrims line of San Clemente's, and she's thinking about getting a pilgrim buck from me. But she's not really sure if she wants this pilgrim buck. And so she can pull him up in the registry, and she can plop his name in, and then she can take her doe and plop her in, and she can get what the pedigree would look like. And so very quickly she can be like, ooh, no, this is a bad breeding. Oh, Plymouth. Oh, God. I'm sorry. I was close. Is that not sad that I'm descended from 3 pilgrims and I couldn't even come up with, Okay, Plymouth. And she's like, oh, this is bad. I see that they have all the same grandparents. I don't want this goat. Or oh my goodness, look at this coefficient of inbreeding. It is only, 1%. This is phenomenal. Or like, oh God, this is like a 50% coefficient of inbreeding. No, too inbred. And she did all that without having to buy my goat. And so she saved on the purchase price of a goat and she saved on the transport. Woohoo! So I'm really excited about that. In the long run, the herd book will only be open, accessible for members, but members will be able to screenshot pedigrees for their sales purpose to send to people. That information is yours, and it's yours to do with as you want. Christy and I've talked about it, and we're going to ask the board to vote on it at our September board meeting. We are thinking of making the herd book accessible for 3 to 6 months for people who request access, so that they can one, see is this a benefit they really can use, and I can't imagine anybody can't use it, but to really see what's available. Also, two, we're going to use that 3 to 6 month period for people to go through. We're going to ask everybody to look at their goats. All of this information is hand inputted into our system. So was a mistake made? Do we have a birth date wrong? Was, something, was the coloring put in incorrectly? And we will be, taking all of those and submitting, hopefully, if the board approves it, and they should, grandfathering all of those changes in at no cost to breeders. So that, I think, is it will be a really interesting point to sort of push. And remember, if members join in the last quarter of the year, their membership is free for the whole next year. So instead of just the last of 2024, they'll get all of 2025 too. I'm trying to think what other. We also coming with the herd book is a revamped website. We'll be having a members only password protected section. You'll get access to our logos, to templates for different things, social media, literature, brochures. Our marketing committee is working on putting together a template for booths at fairs and events. And I think that's it off the top of my head. Hopefully I didn't forget anything. So, anything else?
So Sarah, there's probably more stuff that will be brainstormed later on, and I think that's important for people to know is, because it is all volunteer done, we're trying to figure out what else we can offer for our members. One thing that you didn't have in there that is for all members is the discounted price on the microchips.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've discounted. Yeah, people who wish to microchip their goats, you can go through the company for a discount, and that is on our website, that you can pull that up and get the information. And we also do have a mentorship program for new members who need help sort of navigating the registry for the first time and making sure all of their either one, finding goats to purchase, or two, that all of their goats are up to date in the registry. So, but I will say we are always trying to add new support systems, new benefits as we get volunteers to fill in the gap and help us provide those.
Yeah, people and money are two things we need.
Definitely. So I think the next big fundraiser, we're working on creating a genetic strategic plan, or not creating it as much as getting it onto paper to ensure all of our genetics are preserved through genetic banking of semen straws, embryos, and even for certain goats, genetic material for cloning in the future. And we actually do have a SCI cloning bank with goats that can be cloned. So I know. So and there's a really cool free webinar through the Livestock Conservancy that talks about some of those types of genetic advances that can be utilized. Yeah, if people are interested in that, I highly recommend it. There's stuff out there that you just wouldn't think about. And we work with Smart Repro in Arkansas. They hold our genetic bank for things we want access to quickly. And then our archive is held at the USDA facility in Colorado Springs, Fort Collins. And that's for long-term usage, sort of historical. So in case, I always say, like, if for some reason all San Clementes disappeared today, I want to make sure we have the genetic material stored away that we can pull it in. It's like, ha ha ha, it's all here, everything we need. So, anything else? Any other questions, thoughts, comments? Erin, do you want to go forward to the next slide? So the next, goodness, I was tired when I put this together. Next happy hour is September 18th at 7 p.m. Is there a particular topic anybody would like us to talk about? Any thoughts?
Seems like there was something discussed. There were two options when we chose this one. There was something else. Erin, was it something Jenny wanted to talk about? I forget.
I don't remember,
Yeah.
but I do know that we have on a Google Doc that Sarah shared with me, we did write down some stuff, so we'll have to go back to that.
Okay.
So, otherwise, I'll have to see if she's available. Emily Nyman, the president of the Arapahoe Goat Breeders Association, is a livestock photographer, and she offered to do a workshop for us on how to photograph goats for marketing.
Yay.
So basically, I think, and Ashley and Christy will really appreciate this, again, coming from the dairy world. When people want to sell especially a registered dairy goat or somebody with, high scores and is worth a lot of money, they always have these great photos. It's always a good photo, a post photo from the side, the rear. And San Clemente breeders don't tend to do that, or don't know how to do that, or how to even, because, especially if a dairy goat is shown, they're used to that sort of those positions, and especially if they're milked, they're, used to standing still on a stanchion. A lot of San Clementes are not. And when I did the transport this past spring and people were looking for goats, we had a breeder in Oklahoma that was willing to take on upwards of 100 does. I didn't have that many. He ended up with, I think, 4. But part of the problem was he couldn't get good photos. He came from a meat goat world with Spanish goats, and he just wanted a good side shot. And that just, the one goat, and I know it wasn't true because especially I saw her in person, but the photo looked like her front legs must have been 10 inches shorter than her rump, and yes, San Clementes aren't standardized goats, but let's face it, if that were real, that's just a sad goat in general. So yeah, that would be, if I can get her, is that something people would be interested in, and how to take better photos and sort of market it, how to market your goats for sales?
I think that would be a great option. I'm big on photos, I think you know.
No.
I didn't realize that, Erin. Oh, I'll have to pay more attention.
I think one of the early posts I made in the group was about taking pictures of your goats. So I'm all for it.
Oh, good. Yeah, and especially I think timing of photos, that even if people don't milk, if you can get an udder shot within the first, give her a day or two to come in. So let's say day, 3-5, It's just a smart move. But
Mhm.
okay, I will message Emily and see if she's available. Cool. And then I'll also look at the relook at the topic list for a backup. So,
And then
well,
hopefully in October we'll be talking about our online herd book.
yes, sort of a tutorial on how to get the most
Yeah.
out of it and how to utilize
Yeah.
it. I know. For those that are interested in just sort of getting a preview of the herd book, I encourage you to look up is it the American Kune Pig Society?
Mhm.
It is the same Mountain Niche Services. They are the same producer or same contractor we are using. And the Kune Pigs have a public herd book on their site. So aside from, and you can look up Christy. In fact, when I did a sample, I think it was for the board meeting, show everybody, I looked up Christy's pig specifically, and I was like, this is what it's going to look like. I know it says, and everything pointed to a pig that was Christy. But it can give you an idea of what's to come very soon. So, and next screen, Erin. Well, that is all I have. So thank you guys for coming. And thank you for continuing to support San Clemente Island Goats and the association. If you need anything, we are here to assist. So, and if you guys don't have anything else, I'd like to adjourn the meeting.
Thanks, Sarah.